What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics. And today we got a cool top 10 list brought to us by our longtime patron and supporter, Paul. We have the top 10 of everything. Everything? What are you talking about, Sean? Well, here's what I'm talking about. Everything appears in the song title. Last month, one of our patrons, Joseph, brought a top 10 list of nothing, where nothing appeared in the song title. Now, Paul flips it. We got everything. It is a fantastic list. Great artists, great songs. But before we get into that, please give this video a big thumbs up. Hit the big red subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support us in any way like Paul is doing, check out our Patreon link below. The patrons make this channel go. We put up content every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. It is a blast. Check us out on social media, especially our Facebook group. Great music discussion every single day. And look at our Twitch below. Give that a big follow. We do live streams every Wednesday afternoon, Friday evenings, and whenever we feel like that. All that to say, let's jump into this list of everything. Coming in at number 10, let me get it up here on the screen for you. Boom. Everything Counts by Depeche Mode. Now, I know this song because we did a song reaction to it, I don't know, probably 9 months ago. I don't know. But I don't remember it, right? You do a song reaction, you listen to a song once. I don't remember. I know it did quite well. A lot of Depeche Mode fans out there. Great choice. This comes from the album Construction Time Again in 1983. Paul says, a 1983 single by English electronic music legends Depeche Mode, 6 in the UK, became a favorite with fans of the band and addresses the issues of corporate greed and corruption in Britain. It samples, I came up with it, samples a variety of musical instruments such as a xylophone and melodica, which Gore has been known to play on stage for the song. It was also the first song in the band's catalog, which includes both of the band's singers prominently at different times. Lead singer Dave Gahan sings the lead vocals on the verses. I might have butchered his name if I did, I'm sorry. While main songwriter Martin Gore sings the lead vocals on the chorus with backing from Alan Wilder. So, before we jump into this song, just a reminder, or if you're brand new to the channel, the music will not be in this reaction, but it will be at a link below if you want to listen along with me. If you just want to know what I think, hang out here on YouTube, because I'll be right back. Also, I will have the lyrics up as always. Once again, Paul, thank you so much. You always bring us fantastic stuff. Everything Counts, Depeche Mode. Fantastic song. Really enjoyed that one. I like the chorus itself, like sonically. The chorus sounded so good. It was Martin and Dave both on that. But they were singing, it sounded so pleasant, yet they were singing about something that is so disturbing. And as Paul said in the intro to the song, it's about corporate greed, or part of it is about corporate greed in Britain. And boy, you know, this is 1984. Things have not changed, at least here in the States. They surely haven't changed. But the grabbing hands, grab all they can, all for themselves after all. And they say it's a competitive world. Everything counts in large amounts. So nothing else really matters unless we're just getting rich. And like I said, I'd like to say these things have changed as I'm recording this on the first day of 2021, but they definitely haven't, at least here in the States, they haven't. So that one's going to make a run at my top 3. Every top 10 we do, we pick 3 favorites. That one is definitely going to be in contention. That's going to move us to number 9. For Everything, as you see below, by the Murder Capital. Don't know anything about the Murder Capital. That might have been the only group on here I did not know anything about. It's from their album When I Have Fears in 2019, so just last year, or now it's 2021, so 2 years ago, sort of. Paul says the Murder Capital are a, quote, up-and-coming young Irish band, very much in the post-punk style of UK band Idols, which we have an album reaction up for on the channel. This track is the opener for their debut album. The song, like much of the album, articulates anger at government policies, okay, see a little bit of a theme here, that prioritize economic development over the basic human needs of the homeless, the disabled, and the vulnerable. Well, that might be in Ireland, but I'll tell you what, that's a huge problem here in the States as well. So, have never heard this band. Looking forward to it. For Everything by the Murder Capital. For Everything by the Murder Capital, and if you didn't watch the whole reaction, you know, the first minute, maybe 40 seconds was all instrumental build. They kept adding a little thing here and there. So that was nice. It's always interesting to me what people do on their debut album on the very first track, because sequencing is important, right? And so if you bought the album, this is the first thing you ever heard from the Murder Capital. This is the first thing that they chose your introduction to them. So I'm always interested to see what those things are. They want you to know they're built on intricate instrumentation, because that's what they give you first. And then before the outro, there's a long little run as well, because this song's 5 minutes, 13 seconds long. And honestly, there's not a lot of lyrics to it. There's 2 verses, and then a long outro where For Everything for Nothing is repeated 15 times before they give For Everything We Have. And a little bit before that, I mean, the outro is Not At All, Not For Everything. So it's all kind of the same thing. The lyrics themselves, a little bit towards what I had said at the start, it's about what Paul had written about, articulates anger at government policies, economic development over human needs for homeless, disabled, and vulnerable. And you see it here in their lyrics. In verse 2 specifically, I am the underworld that you want to leave, a frail democracy, benign treaty, courageously foreseen, dreamed. Delusion lines the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. We'll lay the carpet out, invade with doubt. This territory needs more. And then the outro is very powerful. Not at all, not for everything. It's not for everything at all. Not for everyone. It's not for anyone at all. And then it just repeats that, for everything, for nothing. Because he's basically telling you that, look, these policies are for the rich. They help even maybe the middle class. But the poor people, we just kind of want to slide over here, and we really want to forget about them. We want them out of sight, out of mind. If we don't have to think about them or see them, then we don't got to deal with the difficulties of life. And so many people do that, and governments do that all the time. Oh, everything's great. Don't worry about it. And we just take the disenfranchised and shove them aside. So I think I like the song. It's one of those songs, the longer it goes on, you like it more. I'm like, do I like this song? Do I not like this song? I'm still not exactly sure what I think of it. If I wasn't filming a top 10, I would actually hit the repeat on this 2 more times, listen to it 3 times, then I'd have a much better feel. So this is why these are sometimes difficult yet fun, because after the first listen, I don't know what I think of the Murder Capital, but they are interesting. Now we're going to go to a track that I am familiar with, although not greatly familiar with, because I've dove into these guys a little bit, but not as much as I plan to in 2021. We have You've Got Everything Now from the Smiths, from the self-titled 1984 album, The Smith. Paul says the song is based on Morrissey's experience of feeling intellectually superior to his peers in school, only to see them become successful after leaving school, while he struggled to forge a career in music. The old looking around going, man, I'm smarter than that guy or girl. How in the world did they have all this success and I'm still stuck over here? I think it worked out well for Morrissey. By the way, we have some album reviews, reactions, and a great top 10 of the Smiths up on the channel that you might want to check out, of course, after you watch this. You've Got Everything Now, the Smiths. You've Got Everything Now by the Smiths. Talked about in the introduction, Paul was writing about how this is really about Morrissey. Couldn't figure out how he's the smartest guy in school in his mind, and other people had more success. Those lyrics seem to play that out for sure. As merry as the days were long, I was right and you were wrong. Back at the old gray school, I would win and you would lose. So I do believe that's telling us there that Morrissey's like, I was better than you in school. Then the refrain hits, but you've got everything now, you've got everything now, and what a terrible mess I made of my life. Oh, what a mess I made of my life. The chorus, no, I've never had a job because I've never wanted one. I've seen you smile, but I've never really heard you laugh. So who is rich and who is poor? I cannot say, oh. Which brings up the old kind of wonderment of what defines not success, but what defines happiness. He's saying I've never had a job because I've never wanted one. So I'm going to guess this other guy or girl, we'll just make him a guy, is working this job, probably 9 to 5, probably burning the midnight oil sometimes to climb the corporate ladder to be successful, right? And Morrissey's like, I never wanted that. I've never had a job because I've never wanted one. He's playing music. It's a job, but if you love it, it's not really a job, right? I've seen you smile, but I've never really heard you laugh. So you faked the joy, but I've never really seen you happy. So who is rich and who is poor? I cannot say. That is a great line. You might be rich monetarily, but is that really being rich? So that is kind of the age-old question. I can tell you when I was making, not a lot of money every month, but I was making way more money than I make nowadays, I was definitely not as happy as I am right now. So I think I can answer that question for you, Morrissey. And I think Morrissey knew the answer to that question. However, later on, obviously, he would have fame, fortune, and probably still love what he was doing. So I wonder what his answer to that was then. So that's really kind of how this song plays out. Really enjoyed it. Really like the tone of the Smiths. Some people I know, we've said it before on the channel, Morrissey's a hit or miss for some people. I really like him, but that kind of depends on how you feel there, what you're going to think of this song. It's going to bring us to number 7 already. We have Gravity Rides Everything by Modest Mouse. We've done one Modest Mouse reaction on the channel. That's really all I know of them. It's from the album The Moon in Antarctica in 2000. Paul says, it is a bright and upbeat track which describes how the love of those close to us can help everything in life fall into place. Boy, that is the truth. Gravity Rides Everything by Modest Mouse. First off, a shout out. This song, the lyrics are nice. It's all about the atmosphere. The instrumentation is fantastic. The guitar in particular by Isaac Brock, who is on the vocals here as well, who wrote the song, is fantastic. All kinds of dreamy, and I'm assuming that's what was making that. I was looking for other stuff, but we just got on the official listing, vocals, guitar, bass, drums. It almost didn't sound like a guitar in certain points, causing this dreamy atmosphere, especially at the end when we got the float away and then this nice dreamy guitar that comes in. It's just really well done. You can get lost in just the sound of it. Verse 1, oh, gotta see, gotta know right. What's that writing on your everything? It isn't anything at all. I think he's talking about in life we create these moments, right? And some moments are big in your life. I'm not saying they're not. But oftentimes in our minds they take on even grander importance. And when you step back, you're like, any one thing really isn't all that important 99% of the time. But we sometimes in life get in this all or nothing. Man, this has got to work out or else it's going to have this catastrophic effect. And like I said, 99% of the time, it's just really not the case. When you get old like me, you kind of start to realize that when you look back on life, like, we're kind of making things bigger than they were. But that's what life's experience does for you, right? It gives you perspective. You got to kind of go through those things to understand later they weren't that important. Verse 2, oh, gotta see, gotta know right now. What's that writing on your shelf? Not writing in the first one, but writing. No one really cared for it at all. Not the gravity plan. I think the gravity comes in life. Things are going to ground you. Things are going to pull you back down to earth, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. Oh, you got to see, you got to know right now, what's that writing under everything? It isn't anything at all. So verse 3 repeats verse 1 after he's talked about some stuff to kind of bring you back down. I kind of laughed in the pre-chorus early in the morning. It pulls all on down my sore feet. I want to go back to sleep. I hear you there. The very last line, but at least I don't see you float away, is fantastic. This is a really nice one. Like I said, sonically, instrumentation, that is the MVP on this one for me. Next up at number 6, we have Everything Must Go by the Manic Street Preachers from the album of the same name. Paul says it's a title track from the 1996 album by Welsh rock legends Manic Street Preachers. It was the band's first album since the still unexplained disappearance of the rhythm guitarist Richie Edwards in February of 1995. That is a crazy story that I only learned about when we did the previous song for them in another top 10, because I'd never heard of this. At some point I'd like to do either a video or a podcast on that story, because it's one of those rock things that's like, wow, okay. The song's a direct message from the band to their fans, explaining that they needed to continue after Edwards' disappearance and asking for forgiveness. So pretty heady track. I found it was the second single from the album, went all the way to number 5 in the UK. Everything Must Go by the Manic Street Preachers. First thing I noticed on the song was the drumming. And I did do a little digging here. It said the decision was also made not to apply any compression to the drums, giving them a free and messy sound. You can notice it right away in verse 1. Those drums are loud, and I like that. A free and messy sound. I can't describe it any better than that. They somewhat overrun the mix a little bit in a couple places, and you can't really hear the other instrumentation as well. I don't know what I think of that, but it gives it a unique sound. I saw it was the second of 5 consecutive top 10 singles in the UK. Really nice sound. The story, I think they're asking us, the fans, to forgive them for carrying on, although I think the fans probably wanted him to carry on, but also Richie for carrying on without him. I read that he was one of the key songwriters, if not the key songwriter, and that he was bent more towards political things, and they were going to sort of let that go, was what a lot of people think. I don't know the history of the band. If you know the history of the band, you're going to know way better than that. I'm just saying that's what I saw in a little bit of my research during the song. The chorus, and I just hope that you can forgive us, but everything must go. And if you need an explanation, then everything must go. Verse 2, I look to the future, it makes me cry, but it seems too real to tell you why. Freed from the century with nothing but memory. So there's some veiled stuff in here, but I think it's really going to like it. I said at the start what Paul said. It's to Richie and to the fans. you know, you lose someone like that who is a key member of the band. Most bands don't survive that. So it had to be a scary time for them, as well as a time of mourning. Just a crazy story. He just disappeared and he's never been found. But that's a story for another day, as I said. So really nice choice. Now we're already into the top 5. Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead. Off the album, of course, the iconic album Kid A. Paul, in 2000, Paul says the opening track on Kid A, an album which has been often cited as, quote, the greatest left turn in musical history. The track is an immediate statement of intent that Radiohead were embarking on a new experimental and predominantly electronic musical and conceptual journey. The song title and sparse lyrics reference the birth of Kid A with everything in its right place, referring to the initial physical check that a maternity nurse carries out on a newborn baby. I did some further research. The lyrics were inspired by the stress that the lead singer, of course, of Radiohead, Tom York, experienced while promoting Radiohead's 1997 album, OK Computer, a fantastic album. We have a review of that up on the channel you should check out after this. York wrote it on the piano. Radiohead worked on it in a conventional band arrangement before transferring it to a synthesizer and describing it as a breakthrough in the album recording. Though it alienated some listeners expecting more of Radiohead's earlier rock, it was named one of the best songs of the decade by several publications. I've heard this song. I don't remember it. Look, I know Kid A is oftentimes elevated as their greatest album. I love Radiohead. Tons of their reviews up on the channel. My favorite is probably In Rainbows. I recognize that OK Computer is their best album. I don't really care for this album at all. I know it's kind of one of those you either love it or you, I don't want to say hate it, but don't care for it. I'm in the don't care for it camp, but I will also say I've never given it a proper chance of listening to the album 20 times to really get it. So this will push me a little bit. It's good for me to dive into this one. Everything in Its Right Place, Radiohead, coming in at number 5. Everything in Its Right Place, Radiohead, opening track to Kid A. I said before this started, I never really got Kid A, but I haven't listened to it a ton. This song did two things for me, and they're on the opposite sides of the spectrum. It made me think, well, maybe I would enjoy this. And then on the other side of it, like, there's nothing to this song. You can try to break down these lyrics all you want. There's really nothing to this song. It was the first song on the album, so they wanted you to know, hey, look, there's going to be some differences there. One of the biggest differences is the guitars. I'm not going to get into the history of this album. I do know a lot about the album. I did a bunch of research on it, but I didn't do the review. There's a review up on the channel. It was actually Trey McKenzie that did that review. The band has never talked about what this is exactly about, the whole album. The leading theory is that it refers to the hypothetical name for the first-born child of human cloning Kid A. The album documents Kid A's life from childhood to birth. In an interview with The Observer, York voiced his support for the theory, though implying that the record doesn't actually have any inherent meaning. He said, quote, I like the non-meaning of Kid A. All sorts of bizarre things would come up in relation to it, but the one I like is based on the idea that somewhere, some errant scientist has already created the first completely genetically cloned child, or cloned baby, Kid A. It starts out with some interesting sounds, you know, Kid A, everything in its right place. You know, everything's repeated 4 times, in its right place is repeated 4 times. So it's got that 8-line chorus that's so fundamental and basic in songwriting. And then verse 1, he repeats 4 times. Yesterday I woke up sucking a lemon. Who knows? Tom was going through a lot of stuff. He had writer's block before this album. Who knows? I see all kinds of it's all just theory because they've said nothing about it. Then we get the chorus again. Then there are 2 colors in my head. He repeats that twice, which can mean you're being pulled 2 different directions. I get that. What is it that you tried to say? He repeats that 4 times, and then it ends with everything. So I don't know what to say on that. Like I said, am I going to go listen to this album again? Maybe I am after listening to this. Maybe that's what's come out of this for me. It's definitely not going to end up on my favorites. Already up to number 4, another iconic band. We go from Radiohead to REM, You Are Everything. This is off the album Green in 1998. Paul tells us a beautiful tune. Their first for a major label, the Green album is. This song's beautiful melody and strong imagery evoke feelings of nostalgia and comforting childhood memories. In many ways, it captures many of those same feelings and emotions that they would later repeat on the song Night Swimming from their 1992 record, Automatic for the People. Night Swimming is fantastic. So let's dive into this one. You Are the Everything, REM off the Green album, their major label debut, their 6th album, their first album for Warner Brothers. Before 2020, I was never a fan of REM. I really wasn't. I mean, I'd heard them a ton, seen their videos growing up. This wasn't my thing. And one of our patrons, Brian, shout out to him because he loves REM. I dove into their first 5 albums on IRS, so the independent albums. Listened to them several times. Absolutely loved them. Plan on running the whole discography. Listened to Green one time. Don't really remember it. This was several months ago. And I got stuck there, and now oftentimes happens when you listen to music every single day and are doing what we do here, you don't have enough time. So I'm going to revisit that in 2021 and do a discography ranking of them. That's neither here nor there, but just to say, this song sounded a little bit familiar, but I've only listened to this album one time. What this is about is a little difficult to discern. Starts out, it's a very quick-paced song as far as lyrically. The instrumentation's nice, but lyrically, it goes pretty fast because there's a lot of lyrics, and it's only under 4 minutes long here. Sometimes I feel like I can't even sing. I'm very scared for this world. I'm very scared for me. You jump into 2020, I bet Michael didn't feel any different. Eviscerate your memory. Here's a scene. You're in the back seat laying down. The windows wrap around to sound of the travel in the engine. Say the light as they're singing that background. The chorus, all you hear is time stand still and travel and feel such peace and absolute, the stillness still. That doesn't end, but slowly drifts into sleep. The stars are the greatest thing you've ever seen, and they're there for you alone. You are the everything. And it goes on, and he says, but I'm in this kitchen, everything is beautiful, and she is so beautiful. She is so young and old. So I bring up that line because it made me read something into the next chorus that thankfully on Genius, you can click things if you're following along in the lyrics. They're not always right, but I like it when they actually say what the artist said about the song. So, she is so beautiful, she is so young and old. I look at her and I see the beauty of the light of music. And then the chorus, the voice is talking somewhere in the house late spring, and you're drifting off to sleep with your teeth in your mouth. You are here with me, you are here with me. You have been here and you are everything. So I'm thinking your teeth in your mouth must be dentures. And she must be old, and he's talking about that, explains the young and the old in the previous verse. But Stife has commented on this line in the past and says it's not about dentures. He said this, I really hate that line, but what it really is, and I'm happy to shout this, is when you just wake up and your body is in that paralyzed state, you're not sure you're awake, and you're grinding your teeth together, biting down hard, is the first acknowledgement that this is real life, not a dream. That's what the line is. It just came off really, really awkward. I've always regretted that line in that song. So thanks for the chance to speak out about it. So I'm so glad that that is in there. So not exactly sure what the song is about. Is it the girl that's everything? I think so. But is he saying he's everything in his universe? I don't know. But that's going to take us to number 3. Uptight, but in parentheses. That's how Paul gets away with this. Everything's all right. We get that all right in there from the album Uptight, 1966. Paul says a classic early Stevie Wonder hit, which he recorded in 1965 at the tender age of 15. Single went to 3 in the U.S., 14 in the UK. Tells the story of a poor young man's appreciation that a rich girl he likes is able to look beyond his poverty to see his true worth. This is one of those songs, you know, if you watch the channel, you know, I'm the research guy. Oftentimes in the top 10s, the patrons who submit the list have far better knowledge of the songs than I have or that I could find through research just because they know the songs, they have a passion for it. This song is one of those songs you come across every once in a while where you go, wow, this song is so important when you understand the backstory. It was the first Stevie Wonder hit single to be co-written by him. He wrote the music part. An accompanying album, The Uptight, was rushed into production to capitalize on the single's success, as they did so often back in the 60s. It garnered his first 2 Grammy nominations for Best R&B Song and Best R&B Performance. It was watershed in his career for many reasons. Aside from the U.S. #1 Fingertips in 63, only 2 of his other singles, Workout Stevie, Workout in 63, and Hey Harmonica Man in 64, had both peaked inside of the top 40 of the U.S. chart, 33 and 29. Those are the only other singles besides Fingertips that had got in the top 40. So actually, Berry Gordy, the founder and CEO and president of Motown, wasn't sure that he was going to keep Stevie. He was thinking about getting rid of him because his voice had changed. So this became so important that this song hit big. Stevie had sought something based on the driving beat of the Rolling Stones, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, after playing several dates with the Stones and being impressed with the British band. Can you imagine early 60s, and you see early Rolling Stones and early Stevie Wonder. That ought to be fantastic. On the day of the recording, Sylvia Moy, who's one of the two people who wrote the lyrics, had completed the lyrics. She didn't have them in Braille for Stevie. I mean, it's mid-60s, right? It's not easy technology-wise to make these things happen. And so she sang the song to him as he was recording it. She sang a line ahead of him, and he simply repeated the lines as he heard them. Let that sink in. That's how amazing this 15-year-old was. Somebody's sitting right here singing the word, and he's delivering it. She said he did it in one take, and he did it flawlessly. So what a fantastic story. This was important. I don't think I've ever heard this, but we're about to find out. Number 3, Uptight, Everything's All Right, in parentheses. Uptight, Everything's All Right, the great Stevie Wonder. I knew this song the second it hit. One of the things that I sometimes miss about lyricism, especially in the 60s, is there wasn't any veilness to it. I mean, there were on a few songs, but mainly it was straight up. You can read the lyrics and know exactly what it's about. I don't mind trying to find hidden meaning in lyrics. Some of my favorite bands have that. Radiohead, anyone. But, who appeared earlier on this list, obviously, with Kid A. But you know what this is about. He starts out with the baby, everything is all right. That's the part I knew. I know it's appeared in several movies the second I heard it. But he said, I'm a poor man's son from across the railroad tracks. The only shirt I own is hanging on my back, but I'm the envy of every single guy since I'm the apple of my girl's eye. He just delves out in the song. It doesn't matter. He puts in all these different ways. I don't have any money. I don't have any fame. I'm nothing special. I'm just an average guy. But this girl loves me, and because of that, I don't care about anything else. When we go out stepping on the town for a while, my money's low, my suit's out of style, but it's all right if my clothes aren't new. Out of sight because my heart is true. She says, baby, everything is all right, uptight, out of sight. She's a pearl of a girl, I guess that's what you might say. Her folks brought her up the right way. She's on the right side of tracks in a great big house full of butlers and maids. So it's this rich girl that comes from all this fame and fortune. Maybe that's why she doesn't care about any of that stuff. And Stevie says he's no football hero. Don Juan, just an average guy, got empty pockets. You see him, a poor man's son. But none of that matters, man, because he's in love. She accepts him for what he is. Probably was very powerful to have a 15-year-old who is blind sing this song. This adds to the powerfulness of the lyrics, especially back then, because Stevie obviously had a lot of challenges, even though he's incredibly talented. He had challenges on the physical side. So just a great song. I mean, it's a great, fun song. You want to bob along. You want to clap along. Now we're up to number 2, also a song from back in the 60s, the iconic Turn, Turn, Turn. But we have the parentheses in this one, too. To Everything There's a Season, which I'll get into that in a minute. That was the original title of the song. I guess I'll get into it now. By the Byrds, from the album Turn, 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 1965. Paul says the Byrds' take on this Pete Seeger song, needs no introduction, is one of the most iconic tunes of the 60s. Topped the U.S. charts in its release in October 65. Saw the profile of the group rise dramatically to the point where they were being seen as peers with the Beach Boys and the Beatles. It certainly makes you wonder how things could have turned out if not for the difficult relationships which ultimately limited their output and success as a band. So many 60s bands dealt with that. Here's what I found. Written by Pete Seeger in the late 50s, first recorded in 1959. I did not know that this wasn't a Byrds song. The lyrics, except for the title, which is repeated throughout the song in the final 2 lines, consist of the first 8 verses of the 3rd chapter of the Bible, or the biblical book of Ecclesiastes, through the sequence of, though the sequence of the words is rearranged for the song. Almost everyone knows this song, even if they don't know 60s music or the Byrds, but wonderful choice. Number 2, Turn, 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 parentheses, to everything. There you go, Paul. You got the everything in there. There is a season. The iconic Turn, 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 to Everything There's a Season by the Byrds. I talked about at the start, based on the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, but really on the whole book, because he runs down after the chorus, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep, to everything, turn, 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 there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. The overall theme of Ecclesiastes, Solomon's writing, he was the wisest man in the world, had all these riches, but he understood all of it is for nothing in a way. You got to enjoy your time here because we're all going to die, whether you're rich, poor, famous, not, sick, healthy during your lifetime. It doesn't matter. Some people view it as this pessimistic book. Some people view it more as life affirming. That's up to you. If you're a Christian and you've read it, That's kind of up to you to determine what you think out of it. But this does a great way of just, look, all these things are going to happen. It's all part of the life cycle, right? There's going to be good, there's going to be bad. You've got to enjoy it. There's a season for everything, and there's a purpose for everything. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ, there's a purpose for everything that happens to you, and a time to every purpose under heaven. And so, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to build up, a time to break down, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. There's a time for almost everything in life. If 2020 taught us anything, it taught us that, as everyone was forced, unfortunately, to slow down their lives and take a perspective and a little inventory of what's really important and what's not. So this song is probably a good theme for that. A wonderful choice, obviously iconic. Now we're to number one, a song I actually don't know, but a fantastic choice. I Remember Everything by the great John Prine, released in 2020. Paul said, I can't think of a more appropriate song to have at number one on this or any other list. This song is the first that John recorded after his very successful 2018 album, Tree of Forgiveness and Tour. It's a beautiful ballad where he looks back with contentment at his musical and family life. The song could not have been a better goodbye from John, who died in April 2020 from COVID-19 complications. As Rolling Stone stated, with a loping melody and shades of My Way, Prine showcases his gift of making small details fully significant, from an out-of-tune guitar to blades of grass. Beautiful and poignant. I've never heard this song. I'm really looking forward to it. Number one, I Remember Everything, John Prine. There you have it. The great John Prine, I Remember Everything. You know, this song didn't come out until June of 2020. He had already passed away from COVID, unfortunately. It was co-written by Pat McLaughlin. The album, of course, never got finished, so this had to be all the more powerful for this thing to be released after he had already passed. Just fantastic lyrics. I've been down this road before. I remember every tree, every single blade of grass holds a special place for me, and I remember every town, every hotel room, every song I ever sang on a guitar out of tune, and then the chorus, I remember everything. Things I can't forget. The way you turned and smiled on me on the night that we first met. And I remember every night your ocean eyes of blue. I miss you in the morning light, like roses miss the dew. Just fantastic lyricism, and what a story. And coming from a man, you know, when he passed, he was 73. So a man in his 70s reflecting on his life. I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 this year. I know you're watching this going, how's this guy? I don't even think this guy's 30, but, you know, almost 50. I joke. But, you know, sometimes I sit here and reflect on my life. I can only imagine, if I'm lucky enough, God willing, to live into my 70s, the reflection I'll have, just all the great times. So John unfolds in a fantastic way. I don't know a lot of John Prine. I listened to his debut album. Then we have one of our patrons, Abby's, brought several of his songs on our Friday night live streams, which, a shameless plug, check out our Friday night live streams on Twitch. Fantastic, just all kinds of music maybe you've never heard. Great music talk, movie talk, all of it. And so I've grown to really appreciate Prine in that, but I need to dive into more of his stuff in 2021. But a fantastic choice by Paul at number one, and a fantastic list of everything. I'm to my three favorite songs. I've been struggling with this as this list has gone on, because I really like a lot of these songs. But my honorable mentions are going to be You've Got Everything Now by the Smiths, Gravity Rides Everything by Modest Mouse, and we'll throw in Everything Counts by Depeche Mode, our first song we heard that was at number 10. I'm going to be very non-exciting here, non-hot take, because my three favorites are the three that Paul chose. Uptight, Everything's Alright by Stevie Wonder, Turn, Turn, Turn by the Byrds, and I Remember Everything by the great John Prine. Those are my three favorites. Let us know what we left out on the list of everything. What other songs that have everything in there should have been on this list? Remember, we can only choose 10. I think Paul did an absolutely fantastic job. Thanks again, Paul, for this list. And hey, if you want to check out the sister list that one of our other patrons, Joseph, did, the top 10 list of nothings in their title, check that out. Also, thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back with several other top 10s real soon. Until next time, I will see you.